Female athletes sue transgender competitors. A university shells out for anti-racism research, and the Biden administration faces a lawsuit for its loan forgiveness plan. I'm Wyatt Eichholz, and you're watching Campus Countdown. For our number 3 story this week, the Biden administration faces its first lawsuit over its student loan forgiveness policy. The Pacific Legal Foundation filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration last week in the first legal challenge to its recent student loan forgiveness plan. The plaintiff in the case is Frank Garrison, an attorney with Pacific Legal who is already enrolled in a separate public service loan forgiveness program. Pacific Legal claims that because of Garrison's enrollment in the separate program, Biden's policy will actually cost Garrison thousands in additional taxes. The Pacific Legal Foundation also argues that the Biden plan is not justified under existing statutes and requires an act of Congress in order to be legitimate. For our next story, we turn to Campus Reform Correspondent Samantha Zielinski.
For the second year, the Office of the Vice President for Research at the University of Michigan has granted $450,000 to 8 different research teams to study racial differences said to be embedded in society. One project, titled Epistemic Reconstruction, Teaching Engineering Through the Lens of Urban Blackness, will partner with over 50 high schools in 9 states to investigate how centering urban Black youth's knowledge through race-conscious curriculum can create new meanings and purposes for engineering. Another project, headed by a gender and feminist psychology chair and a diversity and social transformation professor, seek to address faculty. Research aims at surveying faculty to understand race and gender discrimination and how these experiences shape workplace intentions and attitudes, which could affect faculty's stay at both the university and within the field of academia. This program was originally started in spring of 2021 with funding totaling more than $1.5 million. Other projects this year include political representation among Puerto Ricans, Indigenous peoples' experience of climate injustice, links between discrimination and depression among Asian youth, structural racism through nonprofit hospitals, the racial wealth gap, and how racial violence shapes the Asian population of Southeast Michigan.
Thank you, Samantha. Coming in at story number 1, female athletes are victimized by trans athletes. A lawsuit argues. Oral arguments began last week in a case challenging a Connecticut law that allowed 2 males to dominate on women's high school track and field competitions in 2019. The Alliance Defending Freedom, representing the 4 female runners, argued that the law violated Title IX, which was originally intended to protect women's sports. The ADF claims that by allowing men to race against girls on the track, it blocked out biologically female competitors from opportunities for recognition and awards at the higher levels. The American Civil Liberties Union, representing the transgender athletes, responded that because the women had earned medals in some of the events, the biologically male athletes did not benefit from an unfair advantage. The ADF hopes that the case will be remanded down to a lower court, where they will then argue against the policy on Title IX grounds. That wraps up this week's edition of Campus Countdown, but before we end the episode, let's check in on what's going on in the Twitterverse. In the woke tweet of the week, a YAF 9/11 memorial was vandalized. Our woke tweet this week highlights a blatantly anti-American woke incident at Michigan State. Last month, Young America's Foundation tweeted that for the second year in a row, leftists have vandalized a 9/11 memorial created by Michigan State YAF as part of YAF's 9/11 Never Forget project. This tells you everything you need to know about the tolerant left. A photo depicting vandalism of an American flag painted on a ceremonial rock to honor the lives of those lost in the attacks. The vandalism included blood red hands painted over the display and a message about Iraqi civilians. The nearly 3,000 American flags that YAF had placed around the memorial were ripped up and thrown away into a dumpster. The incident is a reminder of how the left is willing to vandalize the property of others and to dishonor the legacy of those killed in the September 9/11 attacks, just to advance their policies and agendas. That's all for this week's edition of Campus Countdown. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. To stay up to date on more leftist bias on campus, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Campus Reform. I'm Wyatt Eichholz. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check in next week to Campus Countdown.